Chapter 12, Health Promotion of the Toddler and Family. This we call the terrible twos. It really goes from about age 1 to 3 though. During this time, kids are exploring their environment. Time of intense exploration. They want to find out how things work, so they want to pick everything up, twist it, manipulate it, see how it works. They're trying to control their environment as well as the people in their environment, and they'll use temper tantrums, negativism, always saying no, obstinacy. If you say come, they want to go. If you, whatever you want, they want the opposite. This can be very challenging for parents. So biologically, kids during this stage, they've slowed down on their growth. They're not growing as fast, and they tend to grow in a step-like nature now. So they'll grow and then they'll stop, and then they'll grow and then they'll stop. It's not quite as consistent. They are not well coordinated. They're able to walk, but they fall a lot. They try and run and they trip. So injury prevention is a big part of this age. They develop taste preferences. They're very particular. They like certain things and they do not like other things, and they are not willing to try things that they have never seen before. Physiologically, most of their systems are pretty mature now. Their big gross motor skill that they're working on is locomotion. They're walking, followed by running, followed by being able to jump, so gross motor skills. And they use those to explore, to investigate, and to manipulate the environment. So, psychosocial. They're learning to differentiate themselves from others, particularly the parents. So they realize that just because I want mom to do this, she might not want to do it. That she has her own will and I can't control it. That's kind of a new concept that they're learning in the beginning of this stage. As they go through this age, they start tolerating being separated from the parents a little more, because they start to believe the parents are still there even if they're out of sight, and that the parents will come back. They're able to withstand delayed gratification at least for a short time. They're gaining control over body functions. This is your potty training age. And they're learning what is socially acceptable. That I can't throw sand in another kid's face if I'm going to play at the playground. They're learning to communicate verbally, and they're also learning to be a little less egocentric, that other people have feelings, and when I throw sand in that child's eyes, it makes him sad. Erikson says that this is the stage of autonomy versus shame and doubt. So they're discovering that their behavior is their own, that they can control it, that just because mom says come, they can say no. But they're also learning that there's a predictable and reliable effect on others. So when they tell mom, no, I'm not coming, mom is likely to be mad and come over and physically take them. And if they say yes, mom is going to be happy and maybe take them out for a treat. So that's what they're discovering in that process of discovering autonomy. If they continually are dependent and don't try things on their own, then they start to kind of doubt, can I do it? They're not sure what their own abilities are. And then they also get a sense of shame that they aren't trying to do things, or they become ashamed that they kind of want to try even though mom or dad always does this, but I want to try, but I'm a little bit afraid because it's not, you know, my job. Somebody else does this. Play activities. During this age, lots of casting or throwing. You know, they want to see, does it bounce? Does it fly? What does it do? And throwing is part of that. It's also the age where they love boxes. Big boxes are great toys, and if you buy them something big and expensive for Christmas, they're going to be more excited with the box than the toy probably. This part of the obstinacy is if you tell them to let go, they'll hold on tighter. You know, or if you tell them no, don't touch, they're going to grab it and hang on. That obstinacy. and those food preferences, they will spit things out. They have very definite preferences, and they are not willing to eat something they don't like. Okay, negativism and ritualism. During this stage, these kids have very strong emotions, and they're very strongly expressed. They laugh loudly and they cry loudly, and they'll swing from one to the other very suddenly. And I've had parents say, oh, well, they weren't upset because look, now they're laughing. Well, no, those mood swings are normal. They're happy and laughing, and then they turn around and see something they don't like, and they throw themselves on the ground and cry. So wild mood swings and tantrums are part of that. And often that same mood swing, they'll be on the ground screaming and crying and having a tantrum, and then run over and want to be picked up and comforted. So again, those wild mood swings. Now, when parents give in, that doesn't help the child learn what's acceptable and what's not. Parents need to be consistent, need to have rules, and that actually comforts the child, that they know whenever they do this, there's a consequence, and whenever they do that, the family's happy and praise them. And the children like that too. They like knowing, I always have a bath and a book and a snack, and then I go to bed. And if you ever try and leave one of those steps out, they will really rebel, because they want it to always have the exact same pattern, that predictability. Okay, Freud, remember, our id is those impulses, and the child still is struggling with those impulses. They want it right when they want it, but they're starting to try and tolerate a little bit of frustration. So when they can't color what they want, instead of throwing the crayon, they take a little longer and try again. Starting to learn what's socially acceptable, that I can't just push somebody and take their toy. And that's the ego starting to work. They're starting to be able to use a little bit of reason, a little bit of common sense, to be able to delay gratification a little bit in order to get to those points that are socially acceptable and tolerating frustration. And the superego is just barely starting to develop. And this is the conscience that says this is right and this is wrong. So they're starting to incorporate those morals of society, or what their parents say are right and wrong. They really don't know why, though. They can't tell you why it's bad to hit somebody else. They just know they can't hit somebody else. And that's that acculturation, starting to know what's acceptable behavior. And they're starting to also be aware of failure, that trying something, they may or may not succeed at it, and so it brings some of that doubt and shame up of, should I try, can I do it? And the big stage that they're going through is toilet training at this stage, mastering that. Also play, and often this is the age where sibling rivalry, this is usually the age where other siblings are born, and so they're having to go through that. Okay, Piaget, he actually has his age divided up into a couple of stages. It's the end of the sensorimotor stage and then the preconceptual phase. He would say our cognitive processes are really developing rapidly during this stage. They're starting to have some reasoning skills, but they're very primitive. So they're starting to understand, you know, it makes mom happy when I pick up my toys, so that's a good thing to do, but that's as deep as they can go. They really aren't very well developed in that reasoning skill. And also beginning to have some rational judgment and intellectual reasoning, the same kind of thing. They're really differentiating themselves from others and from objects, that just because I want mom to come and get me, mom can make her own choices. I can't control her. And so they're starting to learn, though, if I do what mom once, it makes her happy, and there's kind of a give and take of controlling each other, that we don't directly control each other, but we can indirectly work together. They're learning cause and effect. Things like flipping on the light switch. You flip it up and it goes on, and you flip it down and it goes off, and then you go to a new house and they have light switches. So you have to go and check and see if their light switches work the same. And then you go to another, somewhere different, and there's light switches there. So they want to keep trying and seeing if it's, if they can generalize this idea, if all light switches work the same. I remember my kids at this age, I used to say they would get up every morning and have to see if the rules were the same. They'd have to go and touch everything that was a no-touch to see if the rules were the same today as yesterday. They'd have to go and, push their brother to see if the rule was the same today as yesterday. And that's part of why this is a challenging age for parents. It just gets exhausting to reinforce the same thing day after day. They're really developing object permanence kind of early on. At a year, they're just getting the idea that something exists when it's out of sight. But now, through this 1 to 3 years, they're starting to understand, I saw Mom put it away in the closet, and initially if it's not in the closet, well, then it must be gone. But as they get a little older, they'll think, well, Mom can move it, so I'll also look in the other closet and in the drawer. So they start to look in several places, not just the one place they saw it put. And then as they get older still, they really start to use imitation. They love to do whatever they see their parents doing. This is an age they're developing body image. They can recognize themselves in a mirror, and by 2 years of age they understand boys and girls, that's different, and they can tell you which one they are. And at this age, intrusive experiences are very threatening to them. So anything we're going to do at the hospital, sticking the tympanic thermometer in their ear, they don't know what's going on inside that ear when you put that thing in there, and that can be very scary even though it's not painful. And part of that is they just don't really understand where their body ends or what you might do to it with that thing. Or sometimes for kids, they don't want to flush their bowel movement because they don't understand it's come out of their body, it's still part of them. They don't understand that's not a necessary part of their body, that's okay to flush. And during this age, the book really recommends that we encourage parents to avoid things that have negative labels to them, like don't talk about the chubby legs, that kids really can be developing a lifelong body image from the things they're hearing in this stage.